for that.
Yeah.
So moving forward, through your videos and through your teaching and through so much of your work already, you've inspired countless amounts of people.
Have I?
I would think so.
Okay.
I think so. I believe so.
Hope so.
And so I'm curious, how do you find inspiration externally that you can bring back to your own music? So, for example, what things or endeavors give you the joy and inspiration outside of music that you can bring back to your violin and to your musical life?
Oh, that's a deep question, Jin Young. I've had to discover that over the past couple of years. Yeah, I would say COVID actually kind of opened up that can for me, and I realized that I didn't want to continue the way that music was inspiring me beforehand, because, and I think we all go through this. We all kind of want what other people have done, and I think I was definitely in that zone as well. Because someone did, I got to do it too, right? Whether is it something that I really want to do?
Sure.
And I think that's also part of growing up. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the next couple of years take me as well, because I do feel that music is a very powerful tool to anyone in this entire world, whether it's classical, pop, rock, you name it, right? There is meaning and purpose to music. So for me, what I've really tried to hold as inspiration is the power it has to completely change someone's view of life, especially. And it depends on how you program things as well. I mean, people go to concerts. Well, I'm talking about, let's start with concerts. I think concerts, first of all, if it's framed the right way and shared the right way, what's right doesn't matter, right? Let's say it, right way. It can really change someone's entire world. I've experienced that myself. I've experienced other people. It is something about music, especially classical music. It's almost time slows down. That 5 minutes, time expands. And I think that in a society today where life kind of just rolls by, music is the one timekeeper where you can suddenly feel the fluidity of how things work, of how time moves. So for me, what inspires me is the idea that because I've already done all of these things that are competitions, you know, concerts and all that, I want to bring music to a different level. And that and what does that mean? Honestly, I don't know yet. But that means projects. That means repertoire that I feel very deeply connected to. And of course, that's a luxury that I know that not everybody has the opportunity to do so. But at the same time, I think that I've had enough credibility where I can actually start to explore that. So for me, that gives me a lot of freedom, but also that's a whole different world to explore, because now there's so many choices and it feels like there's so little time.
Well, and you know, that's really interesting, because I think with classical music, it's such a niche art form.
It is.
And even within the spectrum of, within the umbrella of music, classical music is its own entity, because in almost no other genre of music do you go sit there in silence for an hour, hour and a half, and really you have to be zoned in to really try and get what's happening, right? And I love how you said time slows down or stops, because in other music maybe it might speed up, right? Like time speeds up, or it's so loud and it's so crazy. And with classical music, it's like you're sitting down in silence, and it's not to. I don't think that we sit in silence for a classical music concert because that's just how traditionally we've done it. I think it's something we do because we're honoring that music and we're giving reverence to it with our time and attention. And it's something that I think, like you said, it's so special in that way. It gives us the time to reflect in that short period.
I think classical music is not it's not a flashy art form by any means. So I understand, especially the bulk of classical music. There's some repertoire that is absolutely meant for that flash, but the bulk of the core of our repertoire is it's not something that I think most people can understand. It's something, and I think the reason why we do fear sometimes about this older audience mentality is because I think that actually is our biggest demographic. And it's because I mean, I don't want to sound like an old person, but at the same time, I think you need to have gone through decades of of life.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I'm not there, but I
Mhm.
can understand to see how classical music actually makes sense to me more now.
Yeah.
But you need to go through kind of the weirdness of
Yeah.
life and how abstract it is,
Yeah.
and knowing that things don't make sense,
Yeah.
right? And classical music doesn't always make sense
Yeah.
in the sense from an outsider's
Yeah.
perspective, right? If you go to a pop music show, and it's very expressive, of course,
Yeah.
it's very, how do I say it? It's very raw in some ways
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're using words to
Right.
describe something.
Right.
But I know that I look at my parents when they look at classical music, it's changed for them too.
Yeah.
That the shapes and the sounds and the gestures and the dances and so forth, they explain something that is very personal to them
Mm.
in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you can truly appreciate classical music and especially live performances.
Yeah.
Because if you do it too young, I
Yeah.
think what actually it's because you can't understand these abstract ideas
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
So um, it's an art form that is definitely abstract. I
Yeah.
think we can do a better job of kind of portraying it in that way.
Yeah.
But it's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Well, and I think with that demographic, I think one could argue that before that point in life, it's hard to make time for
Hard to
classical
make
music.
time.
So when you're at that stage in life, everything's hopefully a little bit more peaceful,
Mhm.
and you're able to kind of actually sit down and do things
Yeah, yeah.
like that. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about that demographic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.